Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Welcome back to the Heart-Led Business Show. And today we're diving deep into the remarkable journey of Dr. Connor Ziegler, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon and the visionary founder of Vitality Orthopedics and Biologics. From humble Midwestern beginnings to pioneering patient-centered orthopedic care, Connor's story is a testament to hard work and heart. So join us today as we explore the soul behind the scalpel and the passion fueling his practice. Connor, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tom.
I'm really excited to have you on the show. You were at my last event, and it was the first time that we met, and I'm really impressed with what you've built in terms of your new practice. And so I'm really excited to dive into that. But of course, the first question I always ask of all my guests is, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really a practice or a business that's centered on the patient. I treat all my patients like family. I want them to experience a better or higher level of care than they've had anywhere else. And that's really my mission. Every patient that steps through the door is to make them feel heard, to make them feel like they got a lot of value out of their time with me, and to make them feel like they're part of my family. Every office visit is individualized. I try to meet people where they are. I try to listen to them, hear their goals, and direct my care around that.
Wow. Yeah. Treating people like your family. It's not a dysfunctional family, of course.
It's a good family. Yes.
Right. But that's great in terms of just getting into the hearts and the minds of the patients. What's interesting and what kind of struck me when you were saying that is, where did that come from in terms of that philosophy? Was it because of some issues that happened in a previous job or career that didn't allow you to do the same thing? Or how did that whole feeling of being more heart-led with your patients come from?
No, that's exactly correct. So I've been in practice for almost 8 years. I had a very busy and frankly successful private practice in a fairly large size group. I was part owner of the group. And I'd say about 5 years in, I really reached a ceiling in the value that I could offer people. I did my 10,000 hours as a surgeon. I'm very proficient at what I do and was delivering good care, helped a lot of people along the way. But in a 10 to 15 minute office visit, seeing 30 plus patients a day, 100 patients a week, I wasn't able to address everything that I wanted to. A lot of visits were very rushed, and people were making big decisions in 10 minutes. And I just realized that if I ever want to provide the level of care that I wanted to give to my patients, I'd have to exit that model. And a lot of risk involved with that, but I wanted to start a practice where I could really provide a concierge level of care.
Wow. Yeah. 10 minutes. That's actually being generous. The last doctor visit I had, even though I'm in the US, was like 3 minutes. Yeah, it's crazy that these big decisions that people are making, especially if it's surgery, that it's a very quick and I guess a lot of times we have to go home and think about it and make those decisions. But it'd be nice to have that sit down with an expert and get all the pros and the cons and just have that human to human connection.
Absolutely.
So in your new practice then, what was that transition like going from the big practice as a group and then going out on your own? What was that transition like for you?
It involved a lot of soul searching, number one, because it wasn't that I was leaving a bad situation, I was leaving a successful one. So on paper, you could say that doesn't make much sense. But I knew that if I wanted to evolve the care that I could deliver, if I wanted to provide more value to my community, I would have to make that move and take the risk. So it was very intentional, a lot of planning, finding the right location, designing the right office, doing appropriate marketing, and just honestly delivering for my patients. And the best way to build a practice is just giving exceptional care and developing word of mouth from that. So It was a passion along the way. I felt as though I was really living out my purpose as a doctor by making the move. And it's been positive. I've been very happy with it.
Oh, that's great. How long did it take to make that transition for you?
It was a good year. Obviously, you can't make that kind of move in a month. You really want to plan it out
Right.
well. So yeah, it was about a process. Even just building out the space the way I wanted it, that took several months. All the ducks lined up. I got them all in a row. Had good people behind
Yeah.
me, and we made it happen.
Yeah. That must have been somewhat scary also at the same time, like leaving something that's comfortable that you've helped build and like you said was successful to going into something that was a little bit more unknown. So how'd you navigate that piece of the puzzle that a lot of people don't?
Yeah, I probably should have been more nervous and had more anxiety about it than I did. I tend to be a bit of an entrepreneur at heart, just with other things that my wife and I do. So the business side of it didn't frighten me. I knew that I had a good patient following. And I feel that if you can eclipse the market in what you offer, you can be successful. And I knew my practice model was just, there was nothing like it in the market. So you have to have some level of confidence. You have to have some level of risk tolerance. I had those. I'm seeing it to fruition.
That's good. And for a lot of people, they're like, but I would have that anxiety through the roof.
Right.
What types of advice would you give to somebody that's doesn't have the risk tolerance that you have in terms of going from something that's comfortable, but they know is just not part of their not feeding their soul to doing something that's feeding their soul, but not quite if it's going to be able to feed their family. You know what I mean?
Understood. Yeah, it takes a lot of planning. I think that you can't rush into the decision, and a 12-month timeline may be too short for some. Maybe it's a 24-month timeline. But I think you have to do a good market analysis. I think that you have to build a patient base in whatever practice you're in. I don't think that you could come to a community and just start this having just moved there. I think having
Right.
some notoriety, some patient following already is helpful. But I think the motivating factor is really providing a higher level of care. But you definitely have to get your ducks in a row and do a good market analysis, understand the numbers, and to know if it's feasible. And frankly, join communities, get the right people in your corner. It's one of the reasons I reached out to you, Tom. I knew that I lacked in marketing know-how and needed to find the right people and the right coaching. There's great opportunity and a lot of great community at everyone's disposal. I think you just have to get dialed into it and find the right people.
Yeah, that's really great advice as well. So, you see on the internet or Instagram specifically, like all the bros that are saying, "Oh, just quit your job, just go all in." And I really think that's very irresponsible because it not everybody has that type of risk tolerance, and who knows if their idea isn't going to be good. So, doing the research and finding out and doing all that homework first is so valuable for anybody making a big shift.
It's imperative. Absolutely.
So you had mentioned a little bit ago, it piqued my interest here. You said eclipse what everybody else is doing. So tell me, how are you eclipsing with your current practice what everybody else is doing in orthopedics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can confidently explain and describe because I left the exact model that is pervasive. When I call it
Right.
industrialized orthopedics, you go into
Mm,
most busy private practices like where I was at, where we saw collectively 600 to 700 patients a day in one building. And you look out in the
oh my
waiting room
gosh.
and there'd be 50 to 100 people. And I always felt like we were just herding cattle. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, we were helping people, but it's just the feeling that people get of being rushed through something or waiting 45 minutes in a waiting room of, like I said, 50 to 100 people, the frustration involved, and then just getting a few minutes with a doctor, or maybe not a doctor at all, or maybe they got switched at the last minute. So
Mm,
eclipsing that is actually fairly easy in the
yeah.
sense of just giving people time, giving people access. They only see me. They're never going to see it. I have an office setting that is very unique. It feels more like a Ralph Lauren cigar lounge than an orthopedic office. And that's all part of the model. I want people to feel like this is exceptional or extraordinary. My goodness, they can come in and have a cappuccino and sit on a leather chair and then come in and see me for their consultation. And I give them an hour of my time. Plus, I have all the modern treatment techniques and therapies and modalities that are included in their visit. It's a much higher level of care where the patient feels heard, and I really want to meet them where they are in their station in life. And that's unique in from industrialized orthopedic.
So, what have been some of the pleasant surprises that have happened since you started this practice and have exited the kind of traditional model?
Honestly, how well received it is. I knew there would be a build up period, but as soon as people see the concept and come in the door and just experience what I have to offer, or what a concierge level practice has to offer, they know that the care they're getting is just way beyond what they're going to get in the normal model, the normal system. So the reception of that has been very positive. People leave appointments saying that was the best visit they've ever had with a doctor. And frankly, that's what I want to hear. I want them to feel that. I want to over deliver on value. And when you do that, the price tag doesn't matter that much. People just want to feel like they get value out of their visit, and they're going for the outcome. That's what I try to deliver. And the reception of that has been even better than I anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you brought that up. It's about the outcome, right? Because a lot of entrepreneurs and salespeople, especially in the health and wellness industry, focus too much on the technique or the process or the protocols and all that. And when it comes to selling that to people, it doesn't really work because it's selling something that people don't really care about. What they care about is the outcome. They want their shoulder to not hurt. They want their knee to work properly. So how do you have those conversations with people that are more stuck on they might have been in the traditional model and they're expecting insurance to pay for a lot of what you offer, and clearly a lot of the regen things that you're doing, insurance doesn't participate in anyway.
Right.
But how do you have that conversation with people to differentiate self-care versus having sick care?
Right. It's just listening. You have to dig into what their issue is and allow them to speak. When there's a surgical issue, I will tell you that within 30 seconds in a room, having glanced at an MRI and knowing what the injury is, I know what surgery needs to be done. But that's not listening to the patient. Maybe they're not in a place in life right now where they can do that. Maybe they have a sick spouse. Maybe their work schedule is too arduous. Maybe they've got 4 little kids like I do. That's listening to the patient and finding a solution for them and understanding their goals. So once you do that and you can focus on what their problem is, the root cause of it, and develop a solution that's based on for them or based on them, that really hits home. And it's just not what they experience in the fast-paced offices, which I did for years. You give a better level of care.
Yeah. And I think people, I don't think, I know people find value in that personal care, especially when it comes to their health. So when you're thinking about the business side of your practice, what are the kind of the main challenges that you're facing in terms of you've made that transition, but now you have some challenges in terms of building a business, which every business owner always has some challenges. But what are those unique challenges that you might be facing that other practitioners might be struggling with as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a different concept going from purely insurance-based to almost completely a self-pay model. That's a big leap. So again, it's delivering value and frankly not being afraid to charge for it. I mean, as a provider, I deserve to make a good living, but in so doing, I also want to deliver exceptional care to warrant that. And so I think just devising your programs and what you offer and making sure that you're doing things that are evidence-based and providing the outcome that people seek. If you're over delivering on that, the price doesn't matter as much as you may think. People can see that if you meet them where they are and focus on giving them the outcome that they want.
Yeah. Yeah, I always coach clients that when people have money issues or they can't afford or they say that they can't afford, it really comes down to priority. Is how do you prioritize where you're spending your money? And I think, and this is just my observation of the kind of the cash pay, private pay models out there versus the insurance model. People are probably spending the same amount of money that they would doing cash pay that they do in the insurance model. It's just $5 here, $20 copay there, half a day off from work where you're not earning anything. If people were actually added all that up and having to get referrals to this specialist and that specialist and this MRI and going all around and trying to get all their care taken care of, they're probably spending a lot more in time and effort and cash than it would be to see a concierge medical provider that can see them within a couple days, spends an hour with them, and gets them the outcome that they want.
100%. I couldn't agree more. In fact, that's something I highlight a lot. I tell people when they're just deciding if they want to have a visit, listen, I will give you more in one visit than you'll get in 4 or 5 visits anywhere else. And it's exactly right. How many half days off from work can people take? I've had clients or patients come in that they've seen a PA 3 times before they saw a doctor. And that was 4 visits and they still didn't have an answer. The time is a huge component and the time that they're suffering with their issue. So you have to factor that in. And people want service and they want it now. And I understand that. And so you have to be able to deliver that. And if you can deliver that, you've already beat 90% out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunately the bar is a little low in the kind of the traditional model, unfortunately. And I don't want to blame any of the doctors for that. It's definitely the system that you guys have to work within. What would you say to other medical doctors out there that are in kind of in the traditional sick care model and are contemplating making a move? Like what type of advice would you give to them?
I would encourage it. I think you just have to do the planning, do your due diligence, make sure it works in your area. But honestly, it can work in any area. Some of the most successful doctors in my subspecialty are not in what you would say necessarily the best markets, but they deliver something that's so exceptional and so different from everyone else that they end up doing very well and doing very well for their patients equally. So I think that you just have to plan it out. You have to get the right coaching. You have to read. You have to pray about it. You have to do all the things that we would with any big decision. But don't be afraid to make the leap, because I think you're going to feel more fulfilled by practicing medicine at a higher level. We all went into being doctors or providers or medical providers in general for different reasons. But most of that's focused around patient care and delivering or helping other people. And you can do that at I think even more so in this model than you can in more standard insurance-driven care. I know that for a fact, and I'm an example of that. So I would encourage people to do it. I think just like any big decision, in summary, you have to just plan and get the right people behind you, get the right knowledge base. Don't try to just do it alone. You have to seek out a mentorship.
That's such good advice. When I first started my fitness business 15 years ago, I didn't have that. And I almost went broke in 6 months because I didn't have all that support. And so it's needed for entrepreneurs because, again, we're told just grind through it. Just you can do it. Just do it yourself. And our families don't really understand if they're not entrepreneurs themselves. Our friends may not understand what's going on. So it's nice to be around other entrepreneurs or be in a mentorship program that provides that support.
Absolutely.
We're talking about that, foreseeing into the future. If all the medical doctors decide to go to cash pay or change the model, do you think, is the model going to change at some point to patients that better outcome, but still have some type of insurance or things like that? I'd love to get your insight on that.
Yeah, I think that there's a hybrid component to things. And I think that I think going completely self-pay in an office setting is very doable. But an example, just to use myself as an example, I still take some commercial insurances for surgery. I have a self-pay option for surgery. In fact, you can go right on my website and see how much it costs to have a rotator cuff repair. It's very transparent. But I think that there's definitely a hybrid that can exist. I do think that over time, this will become more and more common, especially over the next 10 years. That's why if anyone's on the fence about it, I would encourage you to capture your market now, because other people will probably follow you. It would be easier to capture a market than compete with 3 or 4 other people in your market if you wait too long. So there's that part of it too. You always want to be ahead of the game. Yeah, there's still room and you can ease yourself into it. I think that as long as you devise a good market or a good business plan and over-deliver on care and provide something that eclipses what everyone else does, you can make it work pretty well.
Nice. Good. Yeah, how's this going to shake out as the pendulum swings both ways? It's always interesting to see where things will land.
Especially in orthopedics, for instance, it's not getting any better in that industrialized model. Reimbursement continues to go down, just costs and fixed overhead continue to go up. It's difficult to run a practice. I often would seemingly joke with my partners that doing surgery is not that hard. Once you're good at it, it's very routine. Running a company is hard, and the insurance industry doesn't make that easier. It's not going to get better over the next 10 years. We all know that.
Yeah.
Historically, that adds up. So that's another motivation factor, if you will, on exiting that model.
Yeah. Hopefully more and more people and doctors take up that and make that shift to make the care much better and leave the sick care to the sick care, right? And health to health professionals.
Absolutely.
I think there can be a really good hybrid model to that. And there's lots of countries around the world that have kind of models like that work. Like I live in Taiwan, and the healthcare is very inexpensive, but they only provide certain things, and you have to pay out of pocket for those other things. But that out of pocket is still not $2,000 for an MRI. It's like maybe $100 for an MRI versus in the US it would be like $1,000 or $500. So it's interesting that it can work. So we just need to make it work.
Absolutely. Be the pioneer.
So tell us a little bit about how people can get a hold of you and what your specialty is if people have some issues that they'd like to talk to you about.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So I'm primarily a knee and shoulder specialist. I also do elbow, but anything orthopedic, I have a good knowledge base on. I can read an MRI on any orthopedic issue, but knee and shoulder is really my niche. I have my practice is called Vitality Orthopedics and Biologics. I'm in Simsbury, Connecticut, beautiful area of the country, a postcard Connecticut town. And my website is vitalityorthopedics.com. That is primarily focused on my regenerative medicine practice. ConnorZieglerMD.com is also a website of mine that is focused more on my surgical practice. So I'm still a surgeon, but I really try to meet that 50% in the middle. I call it the abyss, where they're not bad enough for a knee replacement, for instance, and really an underserved market where they want pain relief, but the industrialized model doesn't work for them. So that's really what I focus on. I focus on helping those active adults get rid of knee and shoulder pain.
Yeah. And looking at your background there, so you work with professional athletes as well?
Yeah, I've over the years, I've collected boxes of jerseys of people I've operated on, local colleges, mainly professional hockey. And yeah, so they're memorabilia. I could pan through my office and show you different jerseys, and everyone has a story. But yeah, these are all patients of mine.
That's nice. Awesome. Well, and that's a testament that obviously you do great work, and because if athletes trust you, you have to be doing good work for the athletes. Yeah.
So absolutely.
Well, Connor, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and being so transparent with kind of your journey through traditional medicine into kind of the new wave of helping patients. So I really appreciate your time and your knowledge as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tom, and thank you for doing what you do.
Awesome. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today as well and watching if you're on YouTube. I do appreciate it. So make sure you're checking out everything that Connor's doing. We're going to put all those links down into the show notes, so it makes it really easy to click in there and find what you want to click on. And while you're down there too, if you could give the show a rating and review, I would really appreciate that as well. It just helps get the word out about the Heart-Led Business Show and helps more businesses get that heart that they need. So until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.